Okay, we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. He gave the thumbs up. We're going to call to order the meeting of the Mount Vernon Charter Review Commission on this Wednesday, July 16, 2025 at 6:03 p.m. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that this is not a public hearing. It's a regularly scheduled meeting of the Charter Review Commission. We also want to recognize that many in attendance and many more throughout our city feel strongly about the proposed changes to our form of government. As a commission, we've heard directly from residents, seen the public commentary, and followed the conversations happening in our community and on social media. We are fully aware of the passion on both sides of this issue or these issues, and each of us is casting our vote tonight with that understanding in mind. As a little bit of a background, this commission was established in March 2024 with members appointed by both the mayor and the city council. As a reminder, we are not paid city employees. We are Mount Vernon residents who have volunteered over the past 14 months and have worked diligently to fulfill the charter review mission. The final report being considered tonight represents the culmination of that effort. At our June 4th meeting, this commission voted to place these proposed charter amendments on the November ballot. At that time, we approved the substance of each proposal. Tonight, we are reading the finalized legal ballot language into record to reflect precisely what voters will see on November 4th. This ballot language is included in the final report. Importantly, it's not this commission, but the people of Mount Vernon who will ultimately decide what happens with its government. If the final report is adopted on November 4th, Mount Vernon voters will determine whether they want a city manager and whether they want an appointed commissioner of finance. If the voters approve those changes, they won't happen overnight. The city manager structure would not take effect until January 2028, and the commissioner of finance position would not begin until January 2030, after the terms of the current mayor and controller have ended. If the voters reject the proposals, they will not take effect. If the final report is adopted, the focus of the commission's work will shift almost entirely to public education and engagement, so that between now and election day, there will be many opportunities for the public to learn more, ask questions, and make an informed decision in November. So with that, let us proceed to the roll call. Kareem Bell. Make sure you speak into the mic, please. All right, thank you. Rosa Blackwell Lawrence. Present. Brian Dwyer.
Present.
Anitra Hadley.
Present.
Mary Kingsley.
Present.
Susan Lawley.
Present.
Eileen Lambert.
Present.
Dolores Lopes.
Present.
Aaron McGarry.
Present.
Gita Morris.
Present.
Kevin Morrison.
Present.
Haley Pilgrim.
Present.
David Rogers.
Present.
Monica Whiting Hogans.
Present.
Okay, so all are present, which means we have a quorum. So we're going to move to the reading of the ballot question per the agenda. We're going to read the ballot questions as approved in form and substance by the commission's attorneys, and then move to accept the Charter Commission's final report. As I said, if approved, the report and ballot questions will be filed with the city clerk, and per the charter, the clerk shall transmit the ballot questions to the Board of Elections to be placed on the November ballot for consideration by the voters of Mount Vernon. For the record, the secretary will now read the proposed ballot questions that are included in the final report of the Charter Commission.
Good evening. Reading this into the official record. Council manager form of government. Ballot question. Shall the city charter be amended to change Mount Vernon's form of government to council manager with city operations overseen by a professional city manager, supervised by the city council, and with the mayor's role in compensation redesignated to reflect a focus on policy leadership and daily management of city departments as follows. A new position shall be created in the charter entitled City Manager, and the City Council shall negotiate a contract for the city manager, who shall serve as the city's chief executive officer, responsible for managing departments, staff, budgets, contracts, and daily operations, and shall be appointed by the City Council from a pool of candidates identified through a national search conducted by a recognized executive search firm, with final selections based solely on professional qualifications and subject to removal only for cause in accordance with the terms of the negotiated contract. All candidates must have at least 10 years of appropriate administrative executive work, experience, or a combination of applicable master's level education training, must contractually be obligated to abide by the International City/County Management Association's Code of Ethics, and shall receive an annual salary that reflects the required qualifications. Scope of responsibilities and prevailing regional compensation for similarly situated municipal executives, and the position of the mayor shall be designated as the presiding officer and a voting member of the city council, responsible for chairing city council meetings, setting the legislative agenda in collaboration with other members, representing the city in ceremonial and intergovernmental functions, and serving as the official spokesman for the city at a salary commensurate with these reduced and redefined duties. And the Board of Estimate and Contract shall be abolished and its powers reassigned as follows. 1, legislative approvals to the City Council. 2, administrative functions to the new city manager created by this ballot question. And 3, financial oversight to the city's chief financial officer in collaboration with the city manager. And the City Council shall be required to adopt implementing legislation prior to the amendment's effective date, which shall be January 1st, 2028. Ballot question number 2, appointed Commissioner of Finance. Ballot question: shall the city charter be amended to replace the elected positions of the controller with a professionally qualified Commissioner of Finance to be appointed by the city's chief executive officer, subject to the advice and consent of the City Council, which consent shall not be unreasonably withheld and shall be provided or denied within 30 days of nomination, and require that the Commissioner of Finance hold a CPA license or similarly credential, be a member of appropriate national financial organizations, and have at least 7 to 10 years of public finance experience, including 3 to 5 years in a senior leadership role, and abolish the Board of Estimate and Contract and reassign to its powers as follows. 1, legislative approval to the City Council. 2, administrative functions to the city's chief executive officer. And 3, financial oversight to the new Commissioner of Finance created by this ballot question, under the supervision of the chief executive officer, and required that the City Council adopt implementing legislation prior to the amendment's effective date, which shall be January 1st, 2030. And concludes the reading.
Thanks, Corinne. So per the agenda, we're gonna move to accept the final report. And I now invite a motion to adopt the commission's final report in its entirety, which include the ballot questions as read into the record.
Can I propose a motion for discussion?
Second.
Okay, so any discussion?
We're going to limit discussion to 2 minutes per person, please.
Rosa?
Thank you. Greetings. I am Rosa Blackwell Lawrence, a member of the Charter Review Commission. The proposed changes to the City of Mount Vernon's charter: 1, shifting to a city manager model, reducing the authority of the elected mayor, eliminating the Board of Estimate and Contract, and 2, replacing the independent controller with a finance commissioner, represents a dramatic restructuring of our government. These changes raise serious concerns about democratic accountability, consolidation of power, and the erosion of fiscal independence. Let me just say, before I outline my opposition to these proposals voted on by a very slim majority of the Charter Review Commission, this is not an attack on the extensive work and commitment conducted by members on commission who all have a dedication to Mount Vernon and only seek ways through this commission charge of review and revision to put forth options and proposals that are for the betterment of our community and our city. They are to be commended and their work not diminished. However, while reform is needed, I have serious concerns and want to impose on my fellow commissioners seated here today to really do a deep dive on what you are voting on today and the impact on the process of democratic governance as it relates to these two proposals and the implementation of such changes where they put on the ballot if they put on the ballot this November and pass. These proposals are not just concerning from a governance standpoint, they are also deeply flawed from a financial and operational perspective. One, it undermines the democratic governance. Mount Vernon voters elect a mayor with the expectation that this leader will be directly accountable to them, not to a council or appointed board. Relegating the mayor to a ceremonial or limited role, as is the case in other municipalities outlined in this report and NTL that sometimes do not work, strips residents of the city of Mount Vernon of meaningful representation. Appointing city manager, an unelected bureaucrat who does not have any connection to Mount Vernon nor required to live here as the chief executive, severs a direct link between the public and executive power. Unlike an elected mayor, a city manager is not accountable to the city of Mount Vernon, the residents, the people, you. This weakens transparency and voter control over how the city is run. It destabilizes the political identity and civic voice of the mayor, redefining the mayor's role to a presiding officer of the city council and ceremonial figure undermines the office's historical and symbolic significance. The mayor is the face of the city, its chief advocate, and an essential voice in intergovernmental affairs and policy development. Weakening the mayor's role dilutes Mount Vernon's leadership capacity and sends the message that the public's vote for a chief executive no longer matters in practice. It weakens our city's leadership capacity and replaces it with a single administrator whose loyalty is to the council, not to the voters. The proposal is fiscally irresponsible. Mount Vernon cannot afford to fund a high-priced, unelected city manager. City managers in comparable cities with similar populations and responsibilities typically earn well north of $200,000 or more in annual salary, not including benefits, relocation costs, or potential contract payouts. Yet this proposal offers no detailed financial plan for how this will be sustainably funded. Instead, it proposes slashing the salary of the elected mayor, eliminating key leadership positions like the deputy mayor and the chief of staff, and reducing department head salaries just to make room for one new position. A national search, as outlined on the ballot question, calls for it to be conducted by a recognized executive search firm. A national search is costly. How will that national search be funded? This is not budgeting. It's putting the cart before the horse and a recipe for disaster and fiscal mismanagement. It doesn't add up. If these proposals were to be passed, the Board of Estimate and Contract, which plays a vital role in providing oversight and shared decision-making authority in financial and contract matters, will be eliminated. Eliminating this board concentrates power in fewer hands and weakens the balance between branches of city government. With no independent Board of Estimate and Contract and a mayor with reduced oversight power, the city council could yield disproportionate influence without appropriate checks, undermining the spirit of a balanced municipal system. It threatens fiscal independence. Replacing the electric controller with an appointed commissioner of finance removes an essential layer of financial accountability. The controller is currently independent and answerable directly to the voters, helping to ensure fiscal transparency and objectivity. An appointed finance commissioner could be subject to political pressures, reducing the public's trust in the integrity of the city's financial oversight. Mount Vernon needs reform, but not at the expense of democracy. While there is a critical need for modernization, accountability, and improvement in city operations, the solution is not to centralize authority in unelected officials or remove public control over key positions. Real reform should focus on improving collaboration, strengthening existing oversight bodies, increasing transparency, and enhancing professional support within the mayor's office and council, not stripping elected offices of their power and your voice. In conclusion, these charter changes are a step backward for democracy in the city of Mount Vernon. Residents deserve a government that is accountable, transparent, reflective of their will, not one run by unelected administrators who are not required to live in our city and wield their power with diminished public oversight. As a commission, we are taking another vote today. To my fellow commissioners, I hope that you can see in your heart that we must put the brakes on this and not go with this with such hastiness and lack of real strategic systemic plan. I urge my colleagues to vote no on these two proposals. I commend the public for being here today to learn, gain knowledge, get your questions answered, help you understand this process. We did not have anywhere near this input during 4 public forums held this past spring. Only 15 attended a combined 4 forums because you did not know about them or did information did not trickle down through communication. But that is neither here nor there because you are here now and you have a voice in this process. You have a voice. If these proposals or referendums are put on the ballot for November, I urge voters to reject these proposals and instead pursue reforms that enhance, not erode, representative government and fiscal independence in our city of Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Before we move on, can people please silence your phones?
I move that we limit comments to 2 minutes per person.
No one can hear you.
Second.
All in favor? What?
We're doing the vote, right?
All right. The motion on the floor is to limit comments to 2 minutes per person.
Sure. How are we doing a motion? How are we already?
No. Motion.
How are we doing a motion when there's one on the floor already?
Oh, okay. Any more discussion? Any more discussion?
Hi, Haley Pilgrim. I think that's a great point. You brought up that we do have community involved now. I know that we all reached out through our channels. I know I did my best to involve my community. And for whatever reason, as you mentioned, Chair, we have a lot of passion on both sides. The community is engaged. I don't think there's anything wrong with postponing this a year now that we have the community's engagement to fully do a bottoms up, grounds up analysis about what the community wants to be amended to the charter.
Anyone else?
I think I've well stated my position of opposition to both this report and these proposals. And I know that 2 weeks ago we were asked for comment on language, but I continue to feel that the language in the report is leading to a conclusion that is not necessarily factual nor supported by empirical data. And I also feel that we cannot move forward this rapidly with something not fully fleshed out and not taking into account the input of all of our community members. My one question, though, that I wanted to ask is what happens if we don't accept this report tonight?
Mission is.
Can you hear me? Yes. Christian D. Palermo, counsel to the commission. If you do not accept the report under the charter 68, I think 11, L says that it is supposed, if it gets approved, it goes to the clerk, just doesn't go to the clerk. That's what happens. And then the ballot doesn't go on the ballot.
Any other
Discussion on that.
discussion?
Good evening. I have questions for our attorney. Thank you for being here tonight and thank you for the work that you put into this report. I have a series of questions. I will make them as concise and brief as possible, but they are questions regarding the ballot, the charter language. So what was read earlier was the ballot language that will be put on the ballot in November should the report pass tonight. But beyond that, if you look at the other 200 pages of the report, there's very detailed charter language that accompanies these changes that are not necessarily reflected in the ballot language. And so what I'm going to do now is ask our attorney some questions about this charter language. We got a week ago, we received this report, which is again, more than 300 pages. And so many of us have spent the weekend and the last few days furiously looking through it and trying to figure out exact what is said. A lot of the language that is in the actual charter that will be in the charter should these ballot proposals pass is language that we have not discussed previously as a commission. So some of it came as a surprise to many of us. So I wanted to ask our attorney some questions as he was involved in the process of writing this charter language. First of all, I was wondering if you could give us an overview of the process that you took to get to the charter language that accompanies these ballot proposals. I'm talking. No, it has to be on the record, on the record. Yeah, like that.
Oh, it's okay. All I'm saying to him is, as I explained to the commission when I sent that language, that is not language that is going into the charter. That's going to be in the charter. There were comments raised when we were working on this that, it might be difficult for the people looking at this to know what to change, so we didn't want to just leave them with nothing. That is language that they could use if they wanted to. They're not obligated to use it. The only thing they're obligated to do is to comply with the language in the ballot question. If they want to get there in another way, they can. So the language that is the different charter amendments, there are 3 different versions. It's one version if both pass. It's one version if only one passes. It's another version. It's one version if 2 pass. It's one version if just the city manager passes. It's another version if just the commissioner of finance passes. Council is free to write that language themselves. This is just some suggested language.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to clarify because in this report, which has gone to the public, which is going to be presented to the clerk as language that should go into the charter, there's no distinction made in this report that some of that language is only suggestive. All of this in here as if it would be included in the charter. So I wanted to know that we're adopting this report with all of this language here today. How will we know what our chair just mentioned is a caveat that this is only suggested language?
And if I could add a further clarifying point, even the title of, sorry.
Even the language on the front page, it says adopted as if this has even been adopted. How are we as a commission just hearing about the stuff in this moment is what our concern is. And even the further disrespect of this city, it's not even a picture of our own city hall. So with this comprehensive report that A, has not been adopted, that B, half this commission is not even clear on how we got to this language a week ago when we got this. For us to be asking clarifying language to something our name is on is what we are asking you as the lawyer who has been working exclusively with the chairs to help us understand, because our name is associated with this.
All right, let me start with the second. I know, I was doing that. I couldn't hear because of the fan. I couldn't hear, so I apologize. I'll stand wherever you want me to stand.
That's good.
Back. I gotta go back. He's telling me I gotta go back. So I can't see me. So I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna stand behind you, okay? We'll stand right like this. First question, your last question first. All legislation, regardless of whether you're the commission or the city council, is written as if it's passing. If it fails, it fails. But it's written as if it's passing. That's just the custom. That's the legal way of doing it. It doesn't mean it is passing. It means that if it passes tonight, that's what it would look like. That's in every piece of legislation that municipalities entertain, any legislature. Okay. Your question. The report is an overall report. It is giving you an example of what it could look like. The ultimate decision, depending if the actual ballot initiative passes, that language has to be reflected. If it passes, if it doesn't pass, you're not going to go through the exercise. But if it passes, it's going to the Corp Council will work with your legal department to reflect throughout the entire code what those changes of the ballot initiative is saying. The ones in the report are a sample of what it could look like. It's ultimately up to your corporation council to reflect what a ballot initiative passes. This is not something that has passed. So I'm not saying your corporate council should have done this because it's got a lot of things to do. If it doesn't pass, this is just to see if the voters pass it. If the voters say no, it goes away. If the voters say yes, then the code would have to.
Well, I understand the code. Don't go. I have a few questions. Thank you. I really appreciate you being here. So I'm not saying that the code, because the code is a whole other thing that has to be changed after this, right? We're talking about the charter language. So it is not specified in this report that this is suggestive language. It is specified that this is the language that accompanies these ballot proposals. So if that is true, what you're saying, that it's up to the city council once these very specific ballot proposals pass to change this language, then I believe that that should be reflected in this report. It should be clear for the public.
I'm not saying it's up to the city council. I'm saying it's up to the corporation council. Because the corporation council, as your legal representative for this entire city, has to take what the ballot initiative says, which is the voters, which is the strongest comment that can be made on a municipal charter and code, is what the voters actually say, and make sure that that runs consistently to what the voters say throughout the charter.
Right. So can you make that clear in this report? Okay, so that's one thing.
Excuse me, we have an open motion on the floor. If the discussion is pertaining to the motion was to limit discussion to 2 minutes per person.
So no, I actually, in all fairness, I went to the chair and I said, we can't even have these conversations. I thought it had passed. You had an open motion on the floor.
Right.
And the right thing is yes or no, you vote on the motion and you
Right.
decide what you want to do. This is how we get it done.
We're voting.
You have a motion.
We have
So the motion is you limit comments to 2 minutes. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Can you adopt?
That was the motion.
No,
What
that
was
was
the
the motion. I made.
He was the first. He was the first.
Can we not yell from the audience?
No.
You were in discussion and then he came for the motion.
I'm not even talking about this point. I'm just talking about the discussion for the report. You gotta leave it
Can I make this one point?
to get what.
Wait a second. Guys,
Transparency, why limit, co-chair, why limit discussion on such an important topic? get up. This is not simply, let's get through this meeting because the impact is too important to this city. Why do you want to limit discussion? And
We're not limiting.
this is something we have been dealing with as a commission for the entire time that we have on this commission is we are silenced, or they try to silence us when we are asking questions to be transparent. So why limit discussion when we have so many citizens here wanting to understand something?
The motion was to limit to 2 minutes per person. It wasn't that you couldn't come back and ask another question.
It's not, can you do it? Why limit?
If you don't agree with the motion, vote no. There's a motion on the floor. It's been properly seconded.
There is a
Motion
was.
I have a question of clarification. Wait, Monica, question. Monica has a question. Point of clarification, I just had the audience, please. Monica, point of clarification.
I just want to be clear. There was a first motion. Can we repeat the first motion and who seconded it?
Motion for discussion.
We went to second.
Oh, so, okay, so I just want to make sure what I know. This motion, we didn't vote on this motion yet. So it's still on discussion. So I'm sorry, therefore, we cannot go into a
But
second
you have a
motion.
subset under it of a motion to discuss. You have a motion to limit discussion. It's a yes or no.
Did we?
Do you want a minute or no?
To vote on the first motion before you can vote on a second motion.
Because the first motion, the second motion is only about discussing the first motion. You don't,
I'm very clear on that. I just want to make sure that if we're going to do stuff in decency and order, that we do it in decency and order. I understand that everybody is passionate about how we want it to go, but at the same time, we need to make sure we're doing stuff correctly. So if there is a first motion, we need to carry that one through. And then if we want to bring forward about having a 2-minute limit on discussion, then that motion can be brought forward. But I'm just saying, I completely understand. But if we're going to do stuff correctly, then we need to do it correctly.
you brought the motion to have the vote. First, second, then you said, does anybody have any discussion? The only question of this next motion is about that discussion. You can't get to that until you've gotten to the first two. Well, I'm,
Saying we can't get to the second motion until we do.
Unless this motion is closed.
I didn't,
All right.
there is nothing that's,
Just to clarify, just to clarify, if we're going to proceed with the first motion was to adopt the report as read into the record. It was seconded. Then it was discussion.
We're on that.
My next question for the attorney, thank you, is,
but until you get to the question of what are you doing about the stuff?
so
No.
just to clarify on discussion, if we're going with Robert's rules, which were not adopted, but that your firm said that this is what we default to, Robert's rules says there have to be a 2/3 approval in order to limit discussion on a question. So that means we need 10 people here to vote to limit discussion to 2 minutes. We can take that vote.
And this is a perfect example of why it's so essential to have policies and procedures and how we proceed forward. We have not adopted Robert's rules. We have not adopted a loose Robert's rules. And the opinion that we revert to Robert's rules in the absence of an adoption of rules. I had an opinion from someone else that said that is not the case, and I forwarded the case law on that and asked for a second opinion on that topic and have not been given it.
I'm sorry, to whom did you forward that? When, Mary? That did, no, absolutely not. That did not happen. But never mind. Do you want to vote on the motion, David? And is it the fact that it needs to be 2/3?
And it's not about
Mary,
refuting
Mary, you don't
everything.
floor.
It,
So are we voting?
any more than you
Okay.
did. It's not about refuting what somebody said. Go look in your email. It's in there.
You don't have the floor. Are we gonna vote on the motion? Okay. You wanna do roll call? We're gonna, can we not yell from the floor? Because I know you don't allow that in city council. Can we have that same respect, please? We're gonna vote on the motion to limit to 2 minutes. Kareem. Rosa. Please speak into your mic. Brian Dwyer.
No.
Yes.
Anitra Hadley.
No.
Mary Kingsley.
No.
Susan Lawley.
Yes.
Eileen Lambert.
No.
Dolores Lopes.
Yes.
Erin McGarry.
Yes.
Gita Morris.
No.
Kevin Morrison.
No.
Haley Pilgrim.
No.
David Rogers.
Yes.
Monica Whiting Hogan.
No.
Okay. So can we please, people, the motion fails. So we're gonna continue discussion.
Thank you. So back to my questions. With the ballot language associated with the city manager, you have there that it will automatically end the Board of Estimate and contract once this takes effect, which would be January 1st, 2028. However, that time is in the middle of the current elected, the next term of the current elected comptroller. He is not out of office until January 2030 or December 31st, 2029. How can you diminish the power of an elected official while he's in office by eliminating the Board of Estimate and Contract during his term?
Yeah, I'm just talking to myself right now, trying to understand. So this is if the controller,
So I just
State
want
in
to
law-
just clarify it. So did your firm write this language?
yes,
You,
Yes.
you wrote.
yes, yeah.
And did you have, when you were writing this language, were you writing it from scratch or did you receive a draft from someone on the commission?
We were,
You work with the chair and the chair is an attorney, correct?
And we may have lost. Let's make sure we have. Here we go.
we started with the language that was part of the resolution of the last meeting in June. And then we moved from that, taking from the report, some of it taking from the report, and then taking from the language that was approved by this commission the last time.
Okay, so then you are very familiar with how our Board of Estimate and Contracts functions, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so how, in your opinion, is it proper and legal to diminish the role of an elected official midway through his term and potentially diminish that role permanently should the public choose not to appoint a financial officer, but instead just appoint a city manager?
The city manager. Well, it's making the changes overall, right? Because you're saying that controller was elected and that controller goes out of office in,
2030.
I don't have it in front of me. That's why I'm questioning.
2030. He goes out of office 2030. This city manager, with the elimination of the Board of Estimate and Contracts, takes place on January 2028, January 1, 2028.
Yes.
Correct.
I have to-
Yes, speak into the mic.
We will make that comply.
How can we vote on this report with this language present which potentially is illegal and opens up the commission
It's not,
for an Article 78 by diminishing the power of an elected official. This is intimately tied to the ballot language that is in the report. It's tied to the city manager.
yeah.
So I don't think that if you have to go back and investigate this and you are not sure if this is potentially legal or ethical or right, then I do not think we can vote on this today.
Where you said when I pointed out that it was written as if this was adopted, if there's still things you have to do with this report, it's not adopted. It should say draft. There should be indications that things still need to be vetted. This is written as if you thought all these pieces out, thought about all the things, the ramifications of this, and this report does not care for any of the things that could cripple our city.
First of all, it's legislation that's read in, and that's the ballot initiative that's going on. And the report is a report. And if you look at the language of the report, of the charter, it says the city clerk will make sure everything complies. We will do that. The intent of this is a broader intent. And as for the dates, we will check those dates. But I don't think we're diminishing the power of the Board of Estimates. And I mean, that would be
You're
my argument.
eliminating the Board of Estimates.
By definition,
Right, but I'm eliminating something.
the Board of Estimates.
You're saying I'm diminishing the controllers.
Because
Right.
right now, the elected comptroller has a seat on the Board of Estimate and Contract. He has not only a seat, a vote.
But
So if we eliminate the Board of Estimate and Contracts as part of this ballot language for the city manager,
What?
The controller's role on the Board of Estimate and Contract is redundant of his other role. The same three people on the Board of Estimate and Contract are the three people who already have a vote. So it is actually not eliminating, it is actually not eliminating any power of his. I know that
Right.
you have a lot to do, so, you may not remember this conversation. But it is a redundant role.
it is not redundant.
It is, I want to
It is
give
not
Dolores,
redundant.
Dolores has a comment or a question.
Okay, in Appendix D of the report, page 22, and this is the scenario if yes to the manager and still having an elected, okay, and it reads, there shall be a Board of Estimate and Contract. It's eliminating it?
You want to look this one?
The
22.
italicized language is the new language, the bracketed language is the old language.
Okay.
If there is just a city manager, the Board of Estimate and Contract still goes away. And the Board of Estimate and
Okay.
Contract duties are divided up between the city manager, the city council, and the controller, if the controller is still there, or the commissioner of finance, if the commissioner of finance is voted in.
Right, no, I see it on 31. Okay. On 31.
The elected
The comptroller
comptroller has a vote on the Board of Estimate and Contract. Through this new ballot language and this proposal, he will no longer have a vote on the Board of Estimate and Contracts because it will be eliminated. That is a diminishment of his power. I agree that you should.
On the other part.
She's talking.
He would not have that duty because he would not have a vote. He is not on the city council and he will not have a vote on the city council. Where?
How much of this did you actually write? Because I don't think you understand what is the process or the structure.
I'm sorry, can we have some order, please? Just one by one, all right? And can you please raise your hand to be recognized?
I just want to, I just want to thank you for your work on this, but it sounds like there's a lot more that needs to be thought through and worked out. And I would ask that we postpone or delay this vote because it does not sound like we have a definitive answer on whether or not the comptroller's powers will be diminished through the elimination of the Board of Estimate contract, which is tied to this first ballot proposal, which is the establishment of a city manager.
Any other,
Yes.
Eileen?
So my overarching point that I have made several times, the devil's in the details, right? Like the what ifs are the problem for half of this commission and why we are opposed to it. And that's the problem. What I'm urging the other half of our commission to do is not adopt this because the what ifs come with too many ramifications that can do us. And and you have seen just a piece of what the conversations are like on this commission. And if the person who is supposed to have been written this is questioning it in this space, I'm questioning this whole 300-page document that is not vetted, it's not clear. I've had to do more work trying to redoing my kitchen, much less talking about remodeling our city. This is like, hey, let's build a house here. Sounds like a great idea, open land, but we didn't think about plumbing. We didn't think about drainage. We didn't think about supply. We didn't think about any of the things to make it work. Simply the budget. We didn't talk about a city manager. If that gets paying a city manager, and if it doesn't work out, sure, we can fire them, but you still have to pay out their contract, right? We mentioned that that salary is upwards of $200,000. You're paying that contract out, say that's 5 years. We still need to hire another city manager. Do you know how much it costs to hire an executive search firm? They take a 20 to 30% cut on the annualized salary of the person that they give you. So where's the budget for that? This city was in an uproar when we tried to increase salaries for people who work here after 15 years. We're going to magically find money to hire this whole new team. Do you think the city manager is going to do this job by themselves? They're going to want a staff who need to be paid. So I want you to think about all that goes into, this is not just, Mount Vernon, just vote it down if you don't like it. No, it shouldn't be on this ballot until all these pieces are vetted, until there are more people here than any one of the community forums that we pay thousands. No. Okay. This session was free. We have paid thousands to have 5 people show up. We did a survey. There are 75,000 residents in this city. 40,000 voting, please correct my math, right? 300 people filled out the survey. 62%, again, correct my math, I might be off a percentage, were from one zip code. Another zip code was 0%. 105, I think, was 9%. 0.9. 300 people filling out a survey representing 75,000 residents that this whole proposal was created off of is not representative of our city. So an idea that's not fully vetted is they talk. And my last point is there is a gross misrepresentation of support for this. Our commission is made up of 15 people. We were deadlocked 7-7. Our chair is the deciding vote. This wasn't like overarchingly supported by our commission. A tie vote is why this is even being considered on the ballot. If this is such a good initiative that we all got behind, we would all be supporting. We are not all supporting this because the citizens have not been educated enough. You have not been educated enough. So my final point is, fellow commission members, this is not about whether idealistically is this a good idea. We all want better for our community, as do our elected officials, because nobody does this for fun, right? What I'm asking you to do is vote this down because there's simply not enough information to vet the details that get put on.
Andy, can we please wait to be recognized? I see Mary, your light is on, so you want to have discussion, correct?
Pardon me?
You want
I just
discussion?
wanted to say something, yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to quote one of our esteemed community at the advisory plan committee meeting that I was at for a comprehensive plan on Monday, which was that it is better not to advance something in haste that is not ready to go forward. I'd rather be late than incorrect. But I do believe that Anitra has a number of well-developed questions that we'd like to have answered by our attorney addressing the entire commission, since we are all equally involved and should be answered for our thoughts and questions. Thank you.
You have questions?
I asked my main question. My other question was about the role of the mayor. It's not specified in this language, and perhaps that's because you're saying the Corporation Council can decide after this is passed whether the mayor, going forward, the future mayor, would be full-time or part-time. And it also does not speak to the power that that would give the mayor, because in that situation, you have all council members elected at large. However, you'd have a mayor who was also elected at large, who would have an outsized role potentially in our government, because that mayor would also sit on the IDA, which oversees pilots, and then also have a vote on the city council. So that could potentially lead to some unintended consequences. So I just was wondering about that, how that's going to be worked out in the future.
Are you asking that from a salary perspective? Because what the ballot question says is that the salary would be based on the reduced role. So reduced, the mayor would no longer be the chief executive officer with responsibility for operations. The city manager is basically an administrator. City manager is making sure your potholes get filled, your licenses get issued. It would be up to council to determine, it would be up to council to determine what salary is. But what the ballot question says is it should be commensurate with the reduced duties.
So just to clarify, you're saying that it would be decided after the people of Mount Vernon vote whether or not we'd have a full-time or part-time mayor?
The mayor would be part-time, right? The mayor would be part-time, just like the other council members. And the salary would be commensurate with the mayor's reduced duties. So in other places that do this, the mayor is considered part-time, but they do the work that is necessary to get done. The salary is commensurate with those duties. That would be up to council, which the mayor would be on, to make that determination.
Okay, and then my last question is around the implementation language. I believe it says at one point that the implementing language needs to be adopted by council by January 1st, 2028. This is a question for the attorney again, Christian. So if this language has to be adopted, so the city manager is expected to take effect January 1st, 2028. At that point, we'll have to have had an executive search firm do the search for the city manager. The city manager will have to be identified and hired and perhaps relocated to the city. You would have to have a contract worked out for that individual. He would also have to identify who his new commissioners are going into the new year. He would have to identify who his deputy city manager would be. All of that would have to be worked out prior to him coming to City Hall on January 1st, 2028. Is that correct? Or she? He or she, yes, or they.
I think. Yes, we can hear. Can you hear me? I think what needs to be in effect is that the city manager, if they're taking over, the council has to have that position all set, as we have as we transfer administrations all the time. There are people in roles temporarily, and as acting positions, that can happen. And I think you were asking the enacting of ordinances. There may be subsequent enacting of ordinances. As we discussed, the Corp Council will realign the code and the charter to make sure that it's all lining up with what the ballot, what was passed at the ballot. And that would happen in due time, and it has to happen before the city manager takes over. So those actions would have to be taken by the city council. And I think primarily on the employment, it would be the city manager would have to be hired.
Okay, the city manager would have to be hired, but that is not stated in this language. It's not there. So we would hope that the city council would realize there's a deadline coming and we won't have a mayor.
But we did say the ordinances. I thought there's language in there that says the ordinances have to be put in place beforehand.
It
By the
says by
time of the-
January 1st, 2028.
I
He
thought
starts,
that's what it said.
she starts January 1st, 2028.
Prior to the effective date, which is your date.
So prior to could be December 31st, 2027, right?
Yeah, anytime prior to that date.
Okay, so we do not specify in this language that the city council has to hire an executive, that they have to put into the budget, that the city council has to have money for an executive search firm, as well as the.
In the ballot initiative? Are you saying to put that in the ballot
I'm
initiative?
saying that if we are rushing this, and saying that we are, after this mayor, we are not having another elected mayor that has the responsibilities for administration in this city, then we should also be clear that when we have a city manager come in, that city manager is set up for success. And you cannot set a city manager up for success if you're on December 31st, 2027, just adding the language from the city council. That needs to be done ahead of time. You have to have the budget. You have to have done this entire process so that on that day, the city is not left unled. We need someone in here on that day to take over because nothing stops.
Then I'm not, wait, because I do just want to respond to this. I mean, city council is a legislative body. They understand their roles, filled with, people who have been doing this for several years and certainly will have by then. City council should be able to look at this legislation, figure out that a city manager needs to be in place on January 2028 and work backwards to figure out when they need to implement legislation. Are you saying?
I mean, just to clarify for you, because I'm gonna answer the question now again, okay, because you've asked me. I'm in a mic. Just to clarify, you're not going to put on the ballot the every administrative steps that have to be taken. The purpose of a ballot is to say, are you changing the form of government or are you not? That's the question the voters are answering. They don't, when you vote, the legal requirement is that. That is the legal requirement. Then if they say, yes, we're changing this, the responsibility comes to the Corp Council. Corp Council, as the legal advisor for this city, has to go and say to the city council, we have to follow what the ballot just said. The ballot initiative said. If it fails, nobody does anything. But if it does that, and these are the steps we need to take, because that's where responsibility lies, with the Corp Council. And there's plenty of time if this was to pass. If it fails, it doesn't.
So I want to speak to that directly, plenty of time. This would take effect in 2 years after this passed. The budget cycle begins in with the calendar year. Budget, things that have to be put into the budget in October, right? In the summer is when they start planning the budget. So for that next fiscal year after this passes, nothing has been in the budget to make sure that this implementation can happen. I also want to say, I understand, and I'm sure our city council and our corporation council would do a stellar job at making sure that this is that we're not left. However, as a homeowner, as a taxpayer, as a resident who has been in this city for lots of time, I would say that we should have put into this suggested language, implementation language that will help them to make sure that they adopt this properly within this very rushed timeline. This less than 2 years where they'll have budget to actually implement this change.
Okay, with all due respect, I think you make very valid points. They're not legal points. Okay, you're asking me whether this ballot can go, this language can go on a ballot. That's what I was hired to do. Okay, the language is sufficient to go onto a ballot. It doesn't mean I'm not making any opinion as to whether it should. I'm not making any opinion whether it should pass, whether it should get denied, whether it should fail tonight. Legally, it is ready to go.
Thank you. So I just want to say then to my fellow commission members, I do not think we have proper implementation language in this charter language, and we should, for that reason, not pass. Thank you.
Eileen, so the lawyer's right. He's giving us the legal answer. It's our charge as the commission and citizens to say this, the devil's in the details. This doesn't work. It's legally sound, but that doesn't mean this works for our city. This goes back to, I have a bridge in Brooklyn. I need to know that it's owned by somebody already first, right? Like, and what that looks like. We can't just be sold something, vote for it, and we'll figure it out later. I want to call. I want to call into this conversation what was brought up in our last meeting, even by our vice chair, to say how it was expected or thought to pay for this new city manager was by reducing current city jobs. Like, so who's going to do this work if we're going to fire those people, right? Where is the budget coming from? Because it was very specifically said that we would get to this payment for the city manager by reducing positions and salaries from current staff. We haven't brought the labor unions into this. We haven't thought about the implication of like, who would be the people that we would have to let go? What body of work do they own? Who is going to set this city manager up for success? And you're going to expect a city that you're going to basically blow up the administration, blow up the form of government. Who's going to set up the new form of government? Where is the thought about how to make this happen? So I go back to, it's not about whether or not this could conceptually be a good idea. There are too many missing details that are not fully thought out. We should be having a conversation about all these details first. Then say, Mount Vernon citizens, do you want this on the ballot? And then you put it on the ballot. But to put it on the ballot and say, we'll figure this out later, absolutely not.
Any other discussion?
Are you good? All right, yes, I have a couple of things. I'm going to return to something that I've said repeatedly, give some explanation and say it again. We have not reached out correctly to our community. We have not heard from all corners. We have not revisited our method when our method did not produce good input. We have done nothing to reach out to our non-English speaking community. When I said, and I don't speak Portuguese, I mean, just a couple of words of Haitian Creole, not enough to converse. But when I said in Spanish one evening in a meeting that, you know, I'm here and I can take your calls and I can speak with you, I was asked by someone else that what if I wanted to speak Spanish in a meeting, I should write down what I wanted to say first in English. And I found that really just so offensive because nobody is writing in Spanish what they're saying in English in this community. So I didn't answer it because I had no nice answer for it. We have a responsibility in this role to see that we communicate with as many people in our community as possible to both gain their input and help them understand what it is we're proposing. I feel we haven't done that. Y otra vez me voy a decir en español, si ustedes quieren hablar conmigo, puede llamarme en cualquier hora. El número mío está en la red, bien fácil de encontrarlo. Porque yo viendo casas y yo estoy en todos los sitios y también alguien me llamó la cara porque siempre estoy en cualquier sitio and I'm not writing that down in English first.
Any other commissioner have discussion? Rosa?
So truly, we are at a serious crossroads. We are making we are being put into this situation to vote on something, like I said earlier, putting a cart before the horse. Can't get some of our questions answered regarding what's in this report. We just received this report a week ago and it says adopted on it already. It has the wrong picture. It's not the Mount Vernon City Hall. A lot of things are happening here. And I just want to impose again on my fellow commissioners here in the room. Okay, you know what's right. You know what's right. This is a serious undertaking that we are doing right now. And deep in your heart, you have to understand that when we're doing this, we're blowing up the current system of government, and going into something hastily and blindly, and with no real roadmap to get to where we need to go. And we cannot do this to the citizens of Mount Vernon. They don't deserve this. They do not deserve this. We swore, the 15 of us swore an oath to be on this commission, to do the right thing, to review the charter extensively. Many of us, were deeply involved in this, and in our own special way. I mean, in fact, when we have our own chair who criticizes members on the commission because they didn't do enough, or they didn't do color coding like she did, or whatever, for files and things, then, you didn't do enough. I did all the work. Clearly, you did, because you were working with the attorney, you an attorney alone, to put together this document. But I will say again, I would like definitely, as a resident of this community, all of us are residents of this community, this is your voice. We cannot diminish, we cannot take away your voice in this process. We cannot turn our government over to unelected administrators who have no history, no connection, no passion, but other than a job, given a job that they're hired to do. They have no connection to the fabric of this community whatsoever, and that is wrong. And I impose again, I beg my fellow commissioners to see the light. Don't get hoodwinked and bamboozled by what we are voting on here today. It is not the way to go for this city.
Thank you. Kareem?
I move that we close this discussion. We've heard from what the commissioner had to say. Oh, sorry. I move that we close this discussion. We've had plenty of conversation by the commission. So who's the second? You have to speak up. So moved by Erin McErin. I moved and it's been seconded by Erin.
Second.
Thank you.
So moved. All right, we're gonna take a vote to close the discussion. Kareem?
Yeah.
Rosa?
No.
Brian?
Yes.
Anitra?
No.
Mary?
No.
Susan?
Yes.
Eileen?
No.
Dolores?
Yes.
Erin? Geeta?
No.
Kevin?
No.
Haley?
No.
David?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Is it 2/3? We don't have any questions. Is it a 2/3 vote to close the discussion? Or
No, Dolores has not 2/3.
And does the chair vote?
Yes, the chair votes. It passes 8-7. So we're gonna vote. All right, the motion was to adopt the final report in its entirety, including the ballot questions as read into the record. We're gonna do a roll call vote. Kareem? Please make sure you speak into the mic. Rosa?
No.
Brian?
Yes.
Anitra?
No.
Mary?
No.
Susan?
Yes.
Eileen?
No.
Dolores?
Yes.
Erin?
Yes.
Gita?
No.
Kevin?
No.
Haley?
No.
David?
Yes.
Monica?
No.
I vote yes, the motion fails. So, sorry, we have one more order of business and the edit, sorry, that is, I sent around minutes for the June 4th meeting. I got some comments. I made those corrections. I just want to make sure there are no other comments or corrections. If not, the minutes will stay on as they are posted.
Madam Chair, when did you send the minutes?
I sent the minutes with the report.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to be reviewing minutes for.
Did it say that, was that outlined in your email? Because I thought it was just a report.
Yeah, no, everything was listed in the email. So if you haven't had a chance to
No,
look at
haven't
it,
had a
that's
chance.
fine. Okay. We will table approval of the minute. What? Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Move to adjourn.
Second.